here.
Yeah, I'm really sorry if you can hear my background noise. I don't know, somehow that my apartment suddenly have something under construction, so please just bear with me. Okay. So thank you for staying with us. We'd like to do a quick poll about how do people usually find jobs in your home country, and we just want to learn more about how you can find how you do this career search job. And now let's put our poll here. Okay.
Great. So yes, those of you who are with us, if you would, go ahead and let us know how, when you think about your home country, call that the country you've spent most time in, how is it that people in your home country most often find jobs? And you can select more than one option, but we're interested to sort of hear and see, based on your experience, based on what you've heard, if you think of family and friends, how did they find those roles? All right. I'll give one last call before we end the poll. All right, and stop it, and here are the results.
Wow. It's quite interesting if we compare this result to what Lincoln showed us. Like we have the most percentage of chances of finding a job through company websites or job boards, which are very convenient because all these resources and websites are open to everyone. So you can access this information very easily. But as Lincoln said before, usually networking is also called the hidden job market. So we can access a lot of jobs who may not even go to be posted online. Let's see how many of that. Oh, we have like 25% of people would like to find a job through networking, which is very important if we finally land in the United States. And let's see what's the second largest percentage. So that is through the career fair, which is very reasonable because if you go attend a career fair, the organizer will usually give you a long list of organizations who will be attended. So you may would prefer to do some investigation ahead of time and bring a batch of your resumes and also try to make yourself stand out through all these attendees. And what is the next? We cover a little bit about networking and also others. I'm curious, when you click like others, what are these opportunities that we haven't covered yet? You can just jump in and unmute yourself if you choose other.
Yeah, or feel free to type
Oh
some
yeah.
examples in the chat if you put
Oh
other.
yeah. Let's see.
I'm interested as well. So yes, if anybody wants to expand on other, what you put for that or what you thought for that, I'd be interested.
Yeah. Like what are the methods you would use to land on a job? Any idea? I'm thinking perhaps it's a return offer, like you're doing your internship and you impress your supervisor and you try to get a return offer. Maybe that is the other. So that is why even before you started this program, you started to look into the industry and try to land on a satisfactory internship that may proceed to become your full-time job. And also let's see what's next. We see the personal contacts or connections. They have the list of proportion of choices. So we may have some friends and family who can work as our referrals, but maybe we are like in different industries unless you are like you already built very strong bonds with each other and you know each other very well. So they may give you very good persuasive recommendations. Otherwise, never mind. Okay, so thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. We'd like to go to the next slide. Wait, we got incoming answer. Okay, so I mean other, for instance, human capital companies post jobs of other companies, which is yeah, very reasonable. So that is called headhunters and recruiters. They are working as a third-party companies to work on a commission and trying to pair the most suitable candidates for another company, which is, become more and more popular. I've been contacted by several headhunters in the past. At first, I think they only see me as a merchandise and just want to sell me. So I don't feel very good working with them. And later, I get in contact with another professional lady, and instead of just try to sell me with going through a very long phone call, and she know me very well, and even till now we still do like annual check-in, so she will know all my updates, and most important of all, she will know my interest, and whenever there's like conferences or seminars going on, she will invite me like, Jasmine, are you interested? We have our company over like promo code for this event, so do you want to join on that? So I'm feeling like she's developed more to become my career coach instead of just trying to sell me. And to my surprise, I never land on a job through her connection, but still it's very interesting to, to jump all your curious questions to her, and she's going to solve these questions for you. Just as Lincoln said, never be shy away from some sensitive questions like the salary range, like the turnover range, and like your career ladder. Because sometimes I would personally be very shy to ask that upfront to the employer. So I would just use my headhunters, like, you go do the industry investigation for me, so I can know like how about this company and how about this industry, which you can take advantage of. But also you need to be aware, like, because they are working on the commission, so you need to know like who is responsible for the payment. Sometimes it's you, sometimes it's the company who hire them. So just be aware and know in advance. Yeah, good idea.
I'll
Okay.
say one last thing I'll touch on before we move from this slide is, I would say when I look at this slide of different ways that people find jobs in one's home country, I would encourage you, like, all of these can be good resources. Like, it's certainly good to think about if you're not using some of these. I think it can be good to think about how you may expand on using them, but all these can be really helpful. I think Jasmine gave a really good caveat, which is headhunters can be a good resource. I think of all of these, you have to be the most careful with headhunters about costs, because sometimes they, depending upon the type of headhunter and how they set things up, they may expect you to pay, or they may be taking a cut from your salary or things like that. So I think you have to be especially cautious of that, because of the financial side can be a little bit hidden, but all of these are really good resources to use. All right, moving on.
Yeah, so as we talk about like how to land on a job in your home country, we're also very curious, like, how does networking look like in your country? You can just type in 1 to 3 in the chat box from like very similar, it's the same to the United States, or kind of, or not at all. So you can just type 1 to 3 in the chat box.
We've got 1, 2, 3, some more twos, more twos.
Okay, I'm very curious. Promote, promote? So you mentioned it's very different. So how can you give us like some examples, like how different it can be?
Yeah, so what I was saying was like it's totally different because it doesn't happen directly unless you have like personal connection through family. There's no cold networking, if that's the correct word for it. Like people don't reach out random strangers and say, hi, I would like to join a company. That doesn't really happen in my country. So I'm originally from a South Asian country called Sri Lanka. Then I did my degree in University of London, and now I'm currently working in London Stock Exchange. But I'm talking about my original country back in Sri Lanka. It doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe in some countries, people will be more focused, like the trust you already built throughout the long term of time, and instead of like just focus on the professionalism or your judgment made by the cognition. Thank you for your example. And also we have got a bunch of two. Let me just choose one. So Allery Wu. Can you please explain, like, in your understanding, what aspects are very similar and what aspects are different? Ellery, are you with us? Okay, yeah, sure. So while you're typing, is there anyone else who want to share with your experiences or your stories? So what about Yahan Yang? Of networking. Do you think that is like the similar part or the different part?
What do you mean by store of networking? Sorry, just to clarify.
But anyway, there's one thing we know for sure is wherever you guys are coming on campus, you have to do some adaptations because now you're type 1. So we know there are some differences here existing.
Yeah, you may want to, okay. Ellery says similar, so like networking with friends and colleagues, known by family members. So it's kind of like a smaller networking circle.
Yeah. So the process is not like go through all these open source websites and or resort to other professional people, and instead maybe your Ellery, you are mentioning like people prefer to stay in a smaller circle and trying to get connected through their own personal like connections. And also like the different part is like not really a big platform to find other professionals. Yes, exactly. And one thing I'm very impressed by Brook and also by CMC Center is because they offer a lot of opportunities for you. So save a lot of time for yourself to reach out to other resources. And you would also know like even your peers and our alumni, they have a bunch of opportunities always open for the current students, which is like a contrast different. And also, yeah, Han mentioned we may have less access to connecting with professionals or leaders. Yeah, that's totally true. Like from my background, like I usually rely on my professors or teachers trying to refer me to a big company or something like that. And I'm just so timid to step out of my comfort zone and get connected with people, or I would just be so afraid of getting a cold call. And nowadays I'm just like, it's fine, and everyone is doing that here as part of their life. So just be open and always waiting for the best chances to appear in your life. Okay, so thank you for your sharing. We are going to the next slide. We also do another pool and trying to know your connections with the US culture. Like, have you ever worked or studied in the United States? Something like that.
Great. I think we have everybody respond on it. So I'm going to go ahead and share the results.
Okay, it's very interesting. Like the majority of our attendees today have no direct connections with the US culture, and very impressive. We had someone worked in the United States and also someone started in a US college. So after we knowing our student profile, we'd like to divide you into different breakout rooms. And if you have working or study experiences in the United States, you can share with your cohort, with your friends, and also do some introductions about yourself. So this is gonna be our first step of the networking. And apart from building the connection with your peers, also remember to share what are some takeaways you have from today and what are some experiences or tips you have to land on a job. So now we are going to leave the room for you to get connected.
Just a moment. So I'm creating two rooms. One is I'm calling experience in the US, whether that's working for a US based company, or studying here. And then the other one is no past US experience. So I'm creating those two rooms and I am opening them up. So you should be able to pick which of the rooms that you want to join. And we'll be in the room for about 5 minutes, actually a little bit less than that. And we'll let you know when we're getting close to time. Great, looks like we've already got some people in the experience with US room, and people are just starting to join the not having past US experience. Let me know if you're having problems with this. Feel free to just let us know. Oh, great. I think we just have 2 people who have not joined another room. Great, 1.
Yeah, one last person who may not be at their computer.
Am I pronouncing the name correctly? Is it Jiang?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, Xiong. Do you need help figuring out which room to go to? Are you having is it not working to join one of them?
I'm not sure actually.
Okay. So if you wanted to, you could you could join the experience with the US room if you have experience either studying, working, or in the US or working with a US based company, or you could join the not past US experience if coming to this program will be sort of your first experience with US culture.
Actually, I love living in US, but I don't have some work experience in US. I just study. No, I'm an exchange student in US now.
Did you say you're studying in the US now?
No, not now. Actually, I'm done my program now. I just stay in US. I don't
Oh,
know.
gotcha.
I don't have any experience in the US.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. So you could, if you wanted to, you could join the not past US experience if that makes sense. But yeah. Oh, and you're the one that's in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, right?
Yes, I'm in Oshkosh now.
That's great. What takes you to Oshkosh?
Thanks. Wait, you mean I asked what time or what state?
Oh, like why are you in Oshkosh?
Yeah.
Why are you? Yeah, why are you? Because I told you I'm an exchange student. I just last week I just done my program, exchange program, and now I'm staying. I can't go back to China because some the very serious policies. But policy, yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Okay.
but like
So you
was your educational program in Wisconsin? Your exchange
Yeah,
program?
no, in Wisconsin, in Wisconsin, but not medicine is Oshkosh University.
Okay. In University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh.
Yes.
Gotcha. That's what you're doing here. Okay. Well, if you wanted to, I mean, since you've been spending some time in the US, you could have joined the experience with the US group if you'd like.
Oh, okay. Let me enjoy. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to put a pause on our recording. All right. I think we've got everybody coming back from the breakout rooms.
It's everyone else.
Great.
Welcome
We
back,
have
everyone.
Yes. I hope you guys get connected and get to know each other a little bit more. So we really want like two representatives from each group to like speak out for your group, like what you share, what you think, and what are the main takeaways you discuss in your group. So can we start with our first like people who have experiences in the United States? Do you have any volunteer from your group? Or you can just nominate anyone in your group.
Feel free to type it as well if you don't want to unmute.
Yeah. Like Jiaying, I saw your thumb like seconds ago. Do you have any ideas or thoughts you want to share with us?
We just talk about like where like there's 2 people graduate from university, just graduated, and 1 people like have a experience of working here. And that's all. That's what we talk about.
Yeah. So did he or she tell you like how she landed on his job? Land on his first job?
But no.
Maybe later go talk to him or her. Just ask for more information. Like,
Okay.
cool.
I know
So
time was short. You all might not have had a chance to get into all of that, but yeah, hopefully you can continue some of these conversations to get to know these people better.
yes. And also for international students, one critical element for us to stay and work in the United States is we have to get like our working visa authorization. So I will leave the room for Brooke to do more, to give his more insightful ideas.
All right. Well, Jasmine, thank you for, I appreciated getting to hear a little bit more about all of your experiences and what you're thinking about. So I'm going to talk just briefly. Some of this gets a little bit dense. We're recording this. So my hope is that if you want to, you can come back to some of this in the recording. But so I'm just going to briefly talk about, this is probably going to be most helpful for those of you who haven't studied in the US before, but there is sort of a progression here. So most of the students that come to Vanderbilt that are international students, they study on an F1 visa. There is a smaller number that study on a J1 visa. So most of what we're doing is going to be talking about the F1 visa. I think right now we only have 1 current data science student who's on a J1 visa. So if you're not familiar with this, typically the process is while you're at Vanderbilt, part of your F1 visa is the CPT. One of the benefits of your F1 visa is the CPT work authorization. CPT stands for curricular practical training. So that's what a lot of students use to be able to do their summer internship and other work experiences. So that's usually sort of the first step. Then another step is the OPT benefits. So the OPT benefit is another great resource, another benefit of your F1 visa, and that allows you to work in the US for 1 year, or if you are after graduation, or if you're part of a STEM certified program, you can work in the US for that 1 year and then 2 additional years, assuming you find a role that relates to your STEM field. So the good news is the data science program is STEM certified, so you have the option, you have the ability to work 3 years using that. And then the last category is the H-1B visa. There are other work visas, but H-1B is definitely the most common visa. And that's what students typically use after they graduate and when they're working with their employer. And Jasmine has shared some really great resources. Those are some really helpful resources. If you're wondering about which companies have a history of sponsoring for the H-1B visa, it can be really helpful to take a look at some of those sites. Because in short, when an employer hires someone on an H-1B visa, they need to report that to the US government. And those 2 sites help you to see some of that. So, and then also some open positions too. All right, so let's take a look at the next slide. So this gets into a little bit more depth on what we we're just talking about, some of the F1 visa and the STEM extension. We touched on that all briefly. And then it also goes into briefly on the J1 visa. So if anybody is doing a J1 visa, that's more of an exchange visa. Instead of using CPT, curricular practical training, and OPT, optional practical training, there's academic training, AT. So it works a little bit differently, but it is good to know about that option as well. And if you're not familiar, hopefully I'm starting, those of you who have never done, never been in the US before and haven't used any of these, it's a lot to kind of figure out. One of the best resources on this is the Vanderbilt ISSS. ISSS stands for International Student Scholar Services. It's a great resource at Owen at Vanderbilt. So this is part of their homepage. There's a part of their page that's very specifically about employment options. So if you go to immigration, employment, F1 students, you'll see some of this about curricular practical training, optional practical training, and more. So that's a great place to start. Then there's also some great sessions that they're doing for incoming students. So Jasmine has already posted on this in the Slack channel. Those of you who have access to the Slack channel. So, and I should say, yes, there's a question that just came through. I know we're at our time already. We will be making a recording of this available. It'll probably be a bit before it's available to everyone, but we'll be sharing this through Amber and also through our Slack channel. But what I'll do is I'll just keep going. I probably have about 10 more minutes of content. I apologize because we're going a little bit over time, which is good. You all have brought up a lot of good points and we've had some good chance to share. So if anybody needs to take off, feel free to, but otherwise I'll keep going. So if you haven't attended some of these pre-arrival sessions for new students, I'd really encourage you to use those. So here's what Jasmine put in the Slack channel, a list of all those. Some of these have already happened. Some of them are coming up, as you can see. So I'd encourage you to consider some of those when you use the link that Jasmine said, or use that site that we were showing you earlier. It will give you a link that you can click on and you can RSVP, and that will give you the Zoom link for the session. So one of these that I will specifically call out is what we're talking about right now. If you want to get into much more depth on it, there is a whole session just on employment options for students, and you'll get more into CPT and OPT and other things. And I think some on academic training as well. So that would be a really great resource for you. It's coming up on July 14th at 8 a.m. I'd encourage you to register for that one. If you are interested more in working, but working on campus, there's a session on June 21st and on August 12th on that as well. So speaking of Vanderbilt ISSS, the good news is that there are staff there that you can connect with. This is Jillian. She's a good resource. So she is not only a good resource at ISSS, as you can see here, she is the primary point of contact for data science students, and she works with incoming students. So it's not just for students once they get to Vanderbilt. Anybody can start talking with Jillian now. You can reach out to her through her email address, and you can also hop on the website and schedule an appointment. So these are the different types of appointments that you can schedule. So I'd imagine some of you may want to do like an advising appointment, or if you haven't done it already, do a student CVIS check-in. That's really important for incoming F1 and J1 students. So please know that Jillian's a resource. Please connect with her if you have questions in the meantime. Also, if you attend some of the sessions that we were just talking about, I think some of those will be really helpful for you as well. So one thing that is helpful to know is we're talking about on an F1 visa, you have CPT and OPT. The organization that holds your F1 visa is Vanderbilt. So when you're a student, the full 2 years that you're at Vanderbilt, ISSS holds your visa. After you graduate, if you're using OPT, Vanderbilt will continue to be your visa holder, but eventually you will want to, if you're going to work in the US, you'll want to pivot to the H-1B visa or another work visa. And it's important to note that the H-1B visa is held by your employer. It's not held by Vanderbilt, okay? And one of the reasons that's important to think about for you at this point is Vanderbilt is not the best resource on the H-1B visa, okay? They're the best resource on the F1 visa, on CPT and OPT. There also can be a good resource on the J1 visa if you're on that. But for the H-1B, like I said, you're gonna want to get outside input. And there's a lot to know about the H-1B visa and how it works. Talk about how it has to be submitted by your employer because they're the visa holder. There's also an H-1B lottery. It's a little bit complicated. This gives you a quick overview of some of how it works with 65,000 visa slots available and 20,000 more for those who have advanced degrees, like you all will have after you finish your master's degree. And then the US government holds that lottery. The last couple of years, the lottery has been pretty competitive, as you can see, based on the number of applicants, which means that it's a smaller percentage of people who are getting that. The good news is if you think about that, if you are able to use STEM OPT, like we were talking about earlier, each year that you're in STEM OPT, if your employer wants to, they can have you apply for the lottery, so you can have multiple chances to enter the lottery. So that's a good thing to be thinking about. By the way, Jasmine, thank you so much for adding in Jillian's contact information. That is really, really helpful. And also, if you don't mind, Jasmine, a link to the ISSS website as well, that would be great. Thank you. So one thing that I do want you all to be aware of is, if you think about this from an employer's perspective, at that very last bullet, because there is risk, if you're an employer in the US, you're hiring somebody on who is currently on OPT or is going to be applying for H-1B, there's risk, right? You don't know for sure if that person can stay on past the 3 years that you have through your STEM OPT extension. So some employers have just decided that they're not open to candidates who will need visa sponsorship. Okay, Jasmine, thank you for adding that. So maybe the question is, okay, so H-1B lottery, what does that mean for me? Well, one of the things it's going to mean for you is when you start applying to jobs, all students are going to get these questions. If you're a domestic student, if you're a US citizen or a permanent resident, you can look at these and you can say, oh yes, I have the legal right to work, and yes, or no, I won't require sponsorship in the future. But for those of you that are going to be on an F1 visa, these questions are a little bit trickier. I'll say personally, I wish that companies would have a discussion about this rather than trying to make it yes or no questions. But you'll want to think about how you can respond to these questions. You will have the legal right to work in the country you apply for through your F1 visa. So we can all put yes. You know, once you're at Vanderbilt, you can all pretty easily put yes to that. That question of do you now or will you require future sponsorship in the US? That is, again, like I said, that is an awful yes/no question. But you want to think about how you'll respond to that. For a number of you, if you're on an F1 visa, the answer may be that you will need future visa sponsorship. So that's just something to think about. But one of the ways that this can happen, and unfortunately, employers can screen candidates based on their response to these questions. So I know some people say, hey, I've applied, they asked these questions, I'm not hearing back. It's hard to know exactly why. Unfortunately, it may be that sometimes you will hear back a no from an employer because they're not interested in candidates that do need visa sponsorship. From our estimates, through the Vanderbilt system, the 1220 system, you don't have access to this now, you'll have access to it later, but employers can post roles, and we ask employers to post whether or not you need sponsorship for that role or not. Typically, about 2/3 of the roles that are posted, employers are wanting someone that does not need sponsorship. So international students have a much smaller number of positions they can apply for. I wish that weren't the case, but unfortunately, that's what the market is right now. So this slide, some of you may be familiar with the insignia in the upper right-hand corner of this slide. This slide comes from a presentation that someone did from an organization called Interstride. I'll share a link with you in a moment. Interstride is a great online tool. It's something that Vanderbilt just recently subscribed to. It's a tool that's designed to help international students. But I really like this slide because I think it captures, what are some of the real challenges that international students face. They face challenges in a couple of different ways: before they apply, during their application, after they apply, and then there are just some general mistakes. So part of the reason that we're talking about this all right now is to hopefully start addressing some of these challenges that you all face. I know it's not always the best news to know that there will be challenges, but my perspective is, we're adults here. We can talk about the hard things, and then let's work together to solve these, right? We're not just going to bring up problems. We're going to think of how we can actively answer these. One of the main reasons right now we're talking about CPT, OPT, and H-1B, some of you may be thinking, wait, why are we talking about this? I don't need to know about this for a while. One of the first general mistake there is unclear understanding of work authorization. There's a lot to know about CPT, OPT, H-1B, and other visa options, other work options. But it's really important that you start learning about that, because chances are very good that you will need that a lot of the employers you're talking with, that you will know more about this all than they will. If you think about it, if you think about your home country, a lot of you may not know exactly what it looks like to work in your home country if you are not a citizen of that country. And I think similarly, a lot of employers, a lot of recruiters A number of them are US citizens or permanent residents, and they may not be familiar with all of these processes. So there will be times when you need to educate them. Vanderbilt, Lincoln, thank you so much for adding the InterStride Vanderbilt link. Appreciate that. It's another great resource there. So we'll come back to this this list of challenges in a moment. But in our last few minutes, I want to talk briefly about, okay, we know there are challenges. What can we do? What can we do knowing about these challenges? I think one of the most important things is to start early. That's why we're talking about this right now. That's why I'm encouraging you all to work on your resume review and to do it prior to orientation. I encourage you to do it before you hit mid-July so that you can meet with Lincoln. You can have your resume added to that early resume book. We'll be sending out more information on that soon so that you can attend some of the upcoming sessions that we have and start doing all of these things. I know that there may be things that are going on for you now. I am quite confident that you will be busier once you come to Vanderbilt. Once you have classes, once you have assignments, once you have exams, it's going to happen fast, and you're going to be very, very busy. So Jasmine and Lincoln, I saw some heads nodding. You all know this, what this is like. So please start working on these things now. The summer is a great time to do this. I'll also say we have more availability. We are also going to be busier once school starts, and we won't be able to be quite as responsive as we're able to be right now. So please start engaging with us soon. Second step, being prepared, understanding these different benefits, the parts of the F1 visa that you can take advantage of, and knowing about the different skills that you have and what skills you have already developed that will translate to the roles that you want to pursue. The last step there is be adaptable. Formulate a multi-pronged plan. When I say a multi-pronged plan, I know sometimes in the US we talk about a backup plan. So if your backup plan is wanting to do one thing and it doesn't work out, what can you do instead? And what we would encourage you to do is to create multiple different plans that you're pursuing simultaneously. So you may be working on, here are job opportunities in the US I'm pursuing, here are job opportunities in my home country I'm pursuing, and you're doing those at the same time. You're not just, one isn't only if option A, your top option doesn't work out. So this slide, going back to InterStride, this comes back to some of the challenges that we were talking about before, and also gives you some good ideas for how you can address some of these challenges that are specific to international students. You'll notice again, right at the very top, start early, know your options. I'll say I found this slide just yesterday. It was on someone used this at a presentation, and I thought, this is really relevant. This fits exactly with what we're talking about. So we're not the only ones saying some of these things, but this slide is also helpful because I think it gets into some of the things that we weren't going to talk about today, but we'll get to some more of these things later. I will say another challenge is the lack of professional network, which I think goes along very well with what Lincoln presented on earlier today, and the importance of using informational interviewing to get to know hiring managers, get to know alumni, get to know people that will help you a lot in your internship and job search. So let's go ahead, and this is the last slide I have from InterStride, and I thought this was really helpful. Because it's looking at, this is a survey that InterStride did of students who use their services, which is many different schools across the US. And they asked them, what's been most helpful to you in terms of supporting you achieve your career goals? And I thought it was interesting to see the different responses. I will say when I look at this, I think it's helpful to kind of understand what are some of the different resources you can pull from. My response to this slide is this. Use all of these. Don't be the person, you're right, sometimes you will have to depend upon yourself, but please don't only depend upon yourself like that 23%. Please use your personal connections, use your friends and contacts, use the University Career Center. Please use, myself, Jasmine, Lincoln, we're all resources. Please use professors and academic staff and interact with them. Be in touch with the International Student Office because they can really help you as you understand CPT and OPT. So please take advantage of that. And also make sure you consider the other category as well. So I hope you can take advantage of all those different resources. You saw the next steps that we talked about already. So please make sure that you are leveraging what exists. Please book a time to meet with Lincoln. This is the different steps through 1220 to set up a meeting like that. So hope that we can get to see some of you through that. And then last, we've got the sessions that are coming up in the future. So That is all that we have. I will wrap up with one poll question. I've got one question I'm interested in asking you all. So I'll end with this. The question is, after graduating from the program, the Masters of Data Science at Vanderbilt, are you most interested in working in the US, your home country, a third country, one that's not the US, your home country, or are you not sure and you're undecided? All right, great. Everybody responded. And the answer is the US is the top response. I will say, it was helpful. I was just looking at this before we met, that of the graduating class of our international students that we have, and Lincoln, correct me if I'm remembering wrong on this, but we had about 15 international students, and a little less than that in our graduating class. We had 4 or 5 of them that are returning to their home country. In this group, it was all in China. They're working with different employers in China. We had 2 that are going to work in the US, one with Amazon, one with Intel. So some of them have able to find pretty competitive roles. There are about 3 of them that are still looking for jobs, 3 or 4 of them that are still looking for jobs. And I think there are 2 or 3 others that are headed to PhD programs in the US. When you look at our first year class, it's really exciting. Some of the most competitive internships with companies like Facebook, Meta, TikTok, Pfizer. I'm forgetting some of the, R Studios, the company that creates R. Some of the most competitive internships were landed through our international students. Last year was the first year we started working with data science students. So I'd like to think it's not a coincidence. I think some of those students were taking good advantage of our resources, and that was really helpful for them. But yeah, it's good to see a lot of you are thinking about working in the US as well. So like I said, it's going to be competitive. It's not going to be easy, but we've worked with a lot of students who've done that before, not just data science students, but other students across Vanderbilt. So I hope that you can take advantage of resources that we provided in helping you with that. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go ahead, and I know we've gone a little bit over time. If anybody has any questions that they want to ask, feel free to do so. I'd be glad to take any of those. And Xiang, that fox that you have created is pretty cool.
Yeah, because I also call it the Fox City, Fox Valley there.
Nice. Yep. The Fox Valley. That's right. The area of Wisconsin that you're in is the Fox Valley. I didn't think about that, but I like it.
Yeah, thank you. May I ask some question about about our future pathway?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, because I got some information in the website that say in this program, it's easy for us to continue to study as a PhD student in there.
Are you saying at Vanderbilt specifically for a PhD, or?
Yeah, Vanderbilt is easy for us this program to change to PhD student study.
Like change, you mean from your master's or after your master's?
After.
Oh, I don't think it's any easier. Like, I don't think Vanderbilt necessarily like gives preference, or it's like a higher admission rate for its alumni. We do have some students who just graduated who will be doing a PhD. I think like one student is doing a PhD in epidemiology at Vanderbilt. And then the other person doing a PhD is looking at other programs. I know Vanderbilt hires a lot of alumni depending on your professional school. I'm not sure. I don't think it's any easier to get into Vanderbilt's PhD programs just because you did your master's here.
I'll add to that a little bit. So yeah, Lincoln, you captured. I think we've got 2 folks in our current graduating class, the class of 2022, who we know right now are headed to PhD programs. There's a third one, and both those students are international students. There's a third one, not an international student, who's planning to pursue a PhD program. is taking some time before doing so. So, and exactly, one of those students that is headed to PhD is doing so at Vanderbilt. I believe that student, we don't work as much with PhD students. I mean, we're glad to be a resource where we can, but if anybody's thinking about PhDs, I would really encourage you to talk more. I can direct you to a couple of other resources that can help with that. But I would say mostly talk with professors, talk a lot with your faculty, because they have received PhDs. They're in touch with some of the other faculty. And I believe the student who is heading to a PhD at Vanderbilt, I do believe she had started to work with that professor as a student, and was able to connect with a professor in the program that she was interested in. I think that played a key part in her getting there. So I guess if you take that approach, maybe being at Vanderbilt could have some advantages to pursuing a PhD program. But like Lincoln's saying, I don't think there's I doubt it on an application they're going to look and give a lot of preference to somebody just because they've gone through the program. I mean, there's not a PhD program within the Data Science Institute, so so there's definitely not like a clear feeder in that way.
Yeah, because I just want a plan B. Just I also as possible to find some opportunity, and I also ask questions about the in this program, in the summer vacation or winter vacation, university will provide us to find some internship.
What was the last part of that question?
Like, will the university help you out with finding internships?
Yes, provide us some opportunity or help to find some internship opportunity.
So for your first year internships between, your first and second years during that summer, some students will do their internship like working at research labs with the university, right? With the Data Science Institute or data science labs at other schools. I will say that if you are hoping to work at a company, as opposed to doing a PhD program, like an internship at a company, looks a lot better. Whereas if you're thinking about doing a PhD, right, doing research continuously looks a lot better. So it kind of depends on like what you want to be doing after you graduate. But there are some opportunities. I mean, definitely not enough for everybody in the class to work at Vanderbilt during the summer, but there's some, and you can reach out to like your professors and ask for opportunities in their labs, but you will also have to be doing a lot of searching on your own, looking at labs across the campus.
Oh, thank you.
I'll add kind of in follow up to that. I mean, our office, when we work with data science students, we work with students just as much around, actually maybe even a little bit more around summer internships, finding summer internships, than we do full-time jobs. And I mean, something that we've seen, we haven't seen this as much with data science students, at least yet, the 1 year that we've been working with the program. But something we see a lot with other programs at Owen, the School of Management on campus, is with the most competitive companies, if you land a summer internship, there is a chance that summer internship can then convert to a full-time offer. So I think if your ultimate goal after graduation is to be employed with a corporation, then in my mind, it's very clear the best route is absolutely try to get a summer internship with that company. I mean, having that experience on your resume will make you more competitive for that company or for other companies. And then, like I said, there's that chance that the way some companies do it, at the end of your internship, you may go through a process that is basically an interview or presentation that then allows them to decide if you'll receive a full-time offer. So that's one of the ways I think about it. Jasmine, were you going to add anything else?
Yeah, I would like to say that for data science students, you have a Slack, and I also see that some professors or staff member posted some vacancies there. So you just be alert and watch out for some postings. And personally speaking, when I come to Vanderbilt, I started to build connections with alumni through LinkedIn, and sometimes they would post like, "Oh, our office has this opening" or something like that. So I think there are a lot of chances and opportunities available there. You just need to be aware of which channel, which platform you need to pay more attention to.
Okay, thank you. May I ask a last question? So I have a lot of questions. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah, feel free to ask another one, and then if anybody else has other questions, we can take those. But yeah, what's your question?
Oh, our program is an interdisciplinary program, right? So we have data science, which allows them major just like biology or geography. So I want to ask, is there in Vanderbilt, is there some data science with financial how to say, not program, hmm, just like this opportunity or search program with data science combined with financial or course or search program like that.
I can start to answer that. So I
Yeah,
mean
because I found some information. They say that the Vanderbilt data science is combined, mostly combined with the central health in the Vanderbilt.
hmm, that's
So
interesting. I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, I think because there is a lot, I mean, one of the focal points of Vanderbilt is certainly healthcare.
yeah,
Which, I mean, you think of a large part, up until recently, the university included the medical center. More recently, those have split, at least legally. But a huge part of the Vanderbilt campus is the medical center. So there's definitely an emphasis on the healthcare side of things. And we certainly see students who go that path. We have a number of students who are interning with professors and the School of Medicine and that side of things. So that's definitely one area of emphasis. I mean, the thing that comes to my mind would be the some of you already know Professor Blocher, Jesse Blocher. Jesse worked previously in consulting, so he has some experience with that. But his one of his main areas that he teaches in, even before the Data Science Institute started, was he teaches at Owen in the School of Management, and one of his focal points is finance. So I know he likes to think about things like using data science to look at the stock market and areas like that. So there are some professors, Jesse's the first one that comes to mind for me, that do think a lot about that. I'll also say in the program this year, we had a number of students that were interested in that same overlap. And one of the things that happens in the program in your final year is you're working on a project with an employer. And we had several students who worked with Alliance Bernstein. If you're not familiar with Alliance Bernstein, they're one of a very large asset manager in the US. They recently added, I think it's their second largest office in the US. They moved it to Nashville. So students did a lot of work with Alliance Bernstein. And I'm blanking on it, but they've worked with a couple other financial service firms as well. So I think if someone is interested in financial services, there definitely are ways that they could expand on that. And I think with the program being interdisciplinary, if I were you, I would think about, would there be possibilities that if you wanted to, you could take some classes through, through Owen, or other parts of the campus that are a little bit more focused on that. So, but yeah, Professor Blocher would probably be one of the best people to talk further on that specific topic.
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We have another question. Do you want to unmute or type it in the chat?
Yeah. So I know international students can't work in their first year. But what are your thoughts about working while studying? Do you recommend that? Is it a bit difficult to keep up with the degree? What kind of support is given from the course, like what you from your end to facilitate that?
So there are students who will like extend their summer internship in the fall, or like if they didn't get a summer internship, like do it in the fall of their second year. If you're talking about like specifically working outside of an internship while you're a student, I mean, Jasmine and I are graduate assistants. I think a lot of the data science students, work on campus in some manner, or like even off campus, right? Like they work at Starbucks or they work at a restaurant. It's possible. It's not for everyone, and it kind of depends on your other responsibilities. So like if you're doing research, right, it's harder to fit in research and a job and classes. So it kind of depends on like what your schedule looks like. If you're involved in like student leadership positions for, clubs on campus, that obviously takes up a chunk of time as well. So I would say that it's possible. You just got to be careful not to like overload yourself, depending on what you're also interested in doing during your 2 years here.
Okay, thanks. One follow-up question on that. So when if you start working, in your second year after summer internship, will those hours get deducted from the total OPT hours that you have after your graduation?
I'll start on this one, and then others hop in if you have thoughts on it. Actually, one thing I want to talk about before we answer that question is to go back to your last question. I should clarify, and I don't know, I could have been more clear on this with the slides I had. As a student on an F1 visa, one thing you can do during your first year is you can work on campus. You are able to work on campus. There's a limit. I think, Jasmine, is it 19 hours a week? Is that what the limit is?
When school is in session, you can only the maximum hours like 20. But when it's like summertime, the maximum is 40. So basically, if you are like on vacation, you do not register for like summer classes, you can work full time.
Yes, thank you. So that is only on campus, so only in parts of Vanderbilt University. But I mean, I bring that up because we do have a lot of data science students who are interested in research, and there are a lot of great research opportunities on campus. So that could even be an option for any of you on an F1 visa during your first year. But it does seem like, yeah, just like Lincoln was saying, you just want to be mindful that I mean, my personal, again, I'm biased, but I would say, please don't get so busy doing a part-time job that you're not able to keep up with, in my mind, a more important goal of getting yourself a good internship to help you get a really good full-time job after you graduate, if that makes sense. So it's kind of an issue of prioritizing. Sorry, your other question was about using CPT and OPT, and if using one kind of limits the other. So with CPT, from my exposure, so I've been working at Owen, and so this year we've worked with data science students, but previous to that, I've worked with international students at Owen, and have done so for the past 9 years. There's only been one situation that I'm aware of where a student ran into an issue of a shortage with not having enough CPT. And that was a student who did an earlier master's degree in the US. So if you're in that situation, things are more complicated, and I would say please talk with Vanderbilt ISSS. But if this is the first master's degree that you're doing in the US, I have not encountered any of those students run into problems with the use of CPT in terms of running out, because there's basically a nearly, and Jasmine, correct me if you think I'm off on any of this, there's a nearly unlimited amount of part-time CPT that you can use. And that's what you would use during the school year, during your second year. During the summer, if you're working full-time, you would use full-time CPT, but you can really only do that during the summer, right? You can't do full-time CPT while you're a student. It's not possible, wouldn't be good if it were possible, wouldn't be healthy. So that shouldn't present any problems. OPT, the way that Vanderbilt tends to use it, almost every time that I've seen, they've only used OPT after graduation. CPT you can only use before graduation. OPT, there's a little bit more flexibility, but like I said, Vanderbilt only uses it after graduation. And there are some limits around OPT, like you need to be able to start using OPT within a certain amount of time after graduation. I think it's 3 months after graduation. And if you don't use it then it's 2 months. And then after that, you start eating into some grace period that you have. There's a lot of ins and outs to OPT, which is why I encourage you to talk to Vanderbilt ISSS, because they're sort of the experts on it. But I will say, I'm not aware of any students who have ran into problems where using CPT or OPT has caused them to lose limits, minus that one exception I said where someone did another master's degree in the US. I hope that helps.
Okay. Yep. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so just to recap, like you can work on campus during your first year and your second year, do an internship during the summer, and then, apply for full-time positions afterwards. I think what Brooke said is very important, right? whatever you're doing when it comes to this stuff, you want it to be in pursuit of your, ultimate career goal of finding a full-time position that want to do. And so, just kind of keep that in mind as you go through the entire process.
Lincoln, so sorry, I have one more question. So
Yes,
when you
sure.
say you can you can work on a campus as an international student in your first year. I always thought those jobs are only for undergrads because, is it not? If
I mean, like Jasmine and I are master students. Jasmine is an international student. We are like graduate assistants, right? You can like do TA positions. You can teach, not teach, assist with undergraduate courses. You can be a graduate assistant, overseeing a program, all of the logistics, a research assistant for a lab that may pay you. For us, like we are career counseling interns. So there's a variety of positions open to master's students on campus. I would say like a good amount of the people in my program work on campus in some degree, whether they're international students or domestic students, and it's not just restricted to undergraduates. There are positions that are specifically only open to master's students.
okay. Could you recommend a few sources or, like how to look into those jobs? I'm sorry, that's my final question.
And I'm gonna
uh,
before we get into that, I'll point out, Pramod, this is a slide that I shared earlier. And if you look on this slide, you'll see Thursday, June 21st, 8:30, working on campus, and then it's done
Okay.
again on the 12th. And that's done by ISSS. So I would really encourage you, with your questions about working on campus, I'd encourage you to attend one of those sessions.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really helpful. You might touch them a little bit on the July 14th, but that'll be more about CPT, OPT, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So in regards to how to find opportunities to work on campus.
Yeah, so I just posted hire a door, Brooke.
Perfect. I was just pulling that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there are portals that we have. There's 1220 and Handshake, and you already have access to 1220. We'll be talking more about Handshake later. Those are more focused on, summer internships and full-time jobs. They're not focused on opportunities where you work on campus, at Vanderbilt. But this would be a place that you could look. You do have to be careful on this site because there are some opportunities that are it would be like being a camp counselor or helping with catering off campus. So there are some things that are off campus, but with the roles that on Hire a Door, again, they're not professional, really are professional roles. It's more focused on working on things you do only as a student, typically not after graduation. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. That was very helpful.
And I just want to say, don't be too anxious during the summertime because you haven't arrived at the campus. But if you come here and you study your lessons, there are more and more opportunities opening, like the professor will mention in class, and you will just get a lot of chances, like this hidden networking job market will come to you.
And I think that's a really good point, Jasmine, is a lot of what we're just talking about with networking, like that also applies for finding on-campus roles. I mean, of course, it's more difficult to do when you're initially a student. I'm just thinking back, I did my master's degree at Peabody a while ago, and I found a job working for the Vanderbilt Institutional Research Group. And I found that through there was like a career fair that was held in the Vanderbilt Rec Center, and I went and talked to some people in that office, and that helped me to start. But I do think Jasmine brings up a really good point, which is hopefully as you spend more time at Vanderbilt, you'll start identifying, like talking with professors and be like, oh, I'm really interested in machine learning, who on campus does things related to machine learning, or I'm really interested in, we're talking about financial services, who's doing research related to financial services that I might be able to use some of my, experience or my knowledge of data science to help with. And that can help you to find roles that are hopefully not just like I did institutional research group because I thought it was a little bit interesting and they needed some help. It was not the most related to what I wanted to do, after the program. So if you can be more intentional about that over time, I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, I would recommend like if you don't get an on-campus job immediately, like keep applying. I applied for I think a lot of positions going into my first year, going into my second semester, didn't hear back. I applied again going into my second year, and I got this position that I've had since like last July. Um, and for me, like this has been a good um, springboard for shifting my career into higher education as well. So there are, ways that you can leverage your on-campus position to further your career exploration.
Yes, thank you. One last site I'll mention is this is one that one of our current data science students pointed out to us, but that link I just shared in the chat box, that is a list. It is huge, a list of a lot of different labs that are on campus. It will take a lot of clicking to sort through some of those, but that may give you some ideas of some of the labs on campus if you want to do research. Those of you who are thinking about a PhD route, I would think probably a lot about that, because just like Lincoln was saying, those research experiences could be especially relevant, getting you in touch with professors that may relate to your PhD work. So take a look at that. One of the things that we are currently, Lincoln and Jasmine and I are currently working on, is to get better data on where the students from the program have graduated and where they're doing their internships. Hopefully by the time you're on campus, we'll have data that we can start sharing on that. So you can see, oh, here are labs where, Vanderbilt students have gone on to work before, and so that those are some of the specific places that you definitely want to follow up with. So that's another thing I would keep in mind.
Any additional questions? We realize that we are like way over time. So we thank everyone for sticking with us. But if there are no additional questions, we will stop recording and see everyone for our next workshop.